Hey, thanks for jumping on this video. I'm guessing if you're here, it's because you've purchased the 2025 basic reseller spreadsheet. I'll get to the step-by-step tutorial in just a second, but just in case you've come to this video and you don't have the reseller spreadsheet, allow me to quickly introduce myself. My name is Jason. I'm a full-time reseller and I produce these reseller spreadsheets for other resellers to help you track your business. I have 3 different versions. This happens to be the tutorial for the basic, but you can find all 3 versions linked below in the description of this video. But for those who are here to catch the tutorial, let's go ahead and jump right in. The first thing that you'll see when you open your spreadsheet is the Start tab. I have had people ask in the past how to access this sheet after they've first opened it up, meaning the next time they want to get to it, where do they find it? And all you have to do is log into your Google Drive and it will be right there. Remember, you don't have to save it to your desktop, it saves in the cloud. So from now on, any changes that you make will be automatically saved. When you enter data, when you make sales, when you record transactions, it's saved in the cloud, which is the great thing of this sheet. So now that we're looking at the Start tab, I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but I'll kind of pull out a few key things that I think are important for you to know in this video. First of all, you've already found this video, but if you're ever looking for it again, it's linked right here on the Start tab. Next, if you had last year's spreadsheet and you're looking how to bring over last year's data into this year's sheet, you'll find that linked right here. But with that said, let's go ahead and dive into the rest of these tabs. And I'm gonna go out of order in this next one because I wanna show you the FAQ tab. Now, you may have questions that come up along the way, and before you reach out to me, let me suggest that you look at this page because I may have answered it for you already. So rather than having to wait for me to respond, maybe you can get a quick answer right here. The FAQ tab answers a bunch of questions that are commonly asked questions. And then below that, you've got some tutorials down here that will help you along the way, as it says. So if you are looking for videos on certain things, let me suggest that you check this first. And then lastly, I'll say with this tab right down below at the very bottom, it'll say if you're still needing help, meaning I haven't answered your question here, the videos that I provided hasn't fixed any issues that you've had or answered any questions, you can always reach out to me. The benefit of you purchasing the spreadsheet each year is that you get access to customer service. This will give you specific instructions on how to reach out to me. You'll share your sheet with me so that I can access it in case you have any issues that I can correct. And please, if you have any issues, reach out to me. That's why I'm here. That's why I've created the sheet, is to help you. I want to make sure that your sheet is operating the way that it should. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any issues whatsoever. If you have any questions, that's why I'm here. So now that we've kind of covered those bases, let's talk about the bulk of this video, how to record inventory and sales, and then how to read your data. So if we go over to the inventory tab, you're going to see I've entered in a few pieces of information just to kind of get us going, but yours will obviously be blank. So you're going to start, assuming that you're a new user, you're going to start bringing in your inventory. I've given you a few columns here that I'll quickly go over, but most of them are pretty self-explanatory. You've got the listed date, the date that you actually listed the item online, whatever platforms you're selling on. You've got a title, so use this to type out however you want to identify those items. You can use shorthand, abbreviation. This is your sheet, so make it your own. Units, you're always going to put 1 here, so you don't have to worry about anything else. Just put a 1, you're good to go. Bin, this is going to be the bin that you are storing that item in. We all have our systems to remember where to find things, and this spreadsheet will help you find the item that you sold by locating it here in the bin column. So whether you use letters or numbers or any combination of that, you'll put that location here. SKU, this column is for you to use whether you want to or not. Some people don't use the SKU column, and that's totally fine, but if it's beneficial to you, please use it. Columns F and G, you're just going to leave alone. You don't need to put anything in here. I'll explain why in just a second, but it's also important that you don't delete those. Cost is going to be the amount that you paid for each item. According to this first row right here, row 3, I went to the thrift store, I purchased this North Face backpack, and I paid $4.50 for it. So what's the cost for that specific item? You've got a notes column here in case this can be beneficial to you. I don't typically use this, but I know a lot of people use this to help them remember things that are important to them. And then XP stands for cross-posting. If you're cross-listing your items out to other platforms, You can put a 1 or an X here. This basically just tells me on my own personal sheet whether that item has actually gotten cross-listed so that I know where I left off. And then if you look to the right, you've got 3 different stats here. You've got your total inventory. So it's going to sum up all of the items that you listed in your inventory tab and tell you how many items you have listed actively that haven't sold. You've got your total cost of inventory. So it's going to take the total of your cost column. So out of all of these 14 items, it totals up to $128.25 spent. And then it's going to give you an average cost of inventory. What's the average amount that you're paying per item when you go to thrift stores, yard sales, flea markets, things like that? Okay, so that's kind of the bulk of the inventory tab. One other thing that people have asked when they're listing their inventory is they'll go to the thrift store and come back and they're like, I'm not necessarily listing it that day, but I want to put it right in the sheet while it's still fresh and I know how much I paid for everything. And that's totally fine. You can do that too. And their question is, if I'm putting it in the sheet, but I'm not listing it online that day, how would I denote that? And you can basically just come in here and list those items, fill out all this data afterwards, and just leave the listed date column blank. And then when you go to list that item on whatever platform you're selling on, then you can put the date in and that will tell you which items you've listed, which items you haven't. Okay, that's the inventory tab. Now what happens when you make a sale? When you make a sale on an item you've got listed, we're going to move that over to the sales tab right over here. And of course, I've got a few sales here logged, but let me show you how to do that. So for this example, let's just pretend that I sold this men's Patagonia hat, row 11 here. And now I need to record it as a sale. And I'm just going to say that I sold it on eBay and we'll keep it pretty simple. So in order to log this sale in the spreadsheet, what you're going to do is come over here, click into the row of the item that you sold, hover, click down, and then scroll all the way over, capturing from listed date all the way over to cost. And then I'm going to copy it. We're going to go over to the sales tab. We're going to go down to the next available line, click into listed date, and then paste it. And you'll notice it pastes right in and it keeps the format of the spreadsheet. And the reason why I say don't delete those green columns on the inventory tab is because it corresponds with these green columns over here. Okay, so you've pasted that in. Next, you're just going to go fill out some information that pertains to the sale. So the year that it's in, the month that it's in. Let's say this is in July. We're going to leave days to sell alone. This is a formula that auto-calculates. So if you type something in this column, it's going to mess up the formula. It's a very easy fix if you do it, so don't freak out. But you can always hit the back button if you do something in this sheet and you're like, oh shoot, I wasn't supposed to do that. Just hit the back button and it will undo the last thing that you did. So if you type a number in here, it's going to delete all the previous entries. All you'd have to do is then come in here and delete that number and then it restores it. Okay, so the days to sell column is automatic. It's going to fill out a number here, recording the amount of days that it took to sell that item once you start to enter in money over here. But let's keep with this sheet. We've listed the year here. And again, this is important that you fill all of these out because it sends the data to the other tabs. We've got the month here, and now we need to record the sold date. So let's just pretend this was July 1st of 2025. We'll put it in there. Now we're going to record the amount that we collected. So I sold this on eBay. Let's say this Patagonia hat I sold for $18.50 plus 5 shipping. You'll notice we've got a sale price column and we've got a shipping collected. Now these two columns are going to be the money that you received wherever you made your sale. So your sale price plus shipping collected. Now if you do free shipping, you won't have a shipping collected because it's free. So the money that you've received. So I'm going to put in $18.50 was my sale price on eBay, and then I collected $5 for shipping. So remember I said once you fill out the sale price, your days to sell column will now fill out, and it did, telling you you listed this on April 10th of 2025, you sold it on July 1st of 2025, and it took 82 days to sell. Okay, moving over, let's talk about these columns. So if these columns here, J and K, are the money that you've collected, then columns L through P are going to be money that you've paid out. So you've got cost of goods, you've got the shipping cost that you paid for the label, you've got your platform fee, your promoted fee, and your transaction fee. And I'll explain all this in just a second. You've got a sales tax collected column. Now, for most of you who sell on online platforms like eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, Facebook, Depop, Grailed, a lot of those, they collect sales tax, but you don't do anything with that sales tax. The site collects it for you from the buyer. The site pays it to the appropriate people, the appropriate municipalities. So you don't collect it, you don't pay it, you do nothing with the sales tax, so we're not going to put anything in the sales tax column. This is only for those few sellers who maybe have a booth at a flea market, or they're doing local sales, or they're actually collecting the sales tax themselves. Again, most of you won't do anything with this sales tax column. You'll leave it blank. Next, you've got your total fees and you've got your profit and loss. And you'll notice the top column says auto on both of these, meaning it auto calculates. You shouldn't do anything with these. It will automatically generate the total fees, which are going to be column L through P. So it's going to sum up all of these numbers here in the highlighted region and give you your total money spent in order to make that sale. And then your profit and loss is going to, as you may have guessed, take all the money you've collected, subtract out all the fees that you've paid, and give you your profit. So on this particular item, the North Face backpack, we collected $44 total with shipping included. We paid $450 for the item. We paid $895 for the shipping label. We had selling fees of $312, and that gives us a profit of $27.43. Okay, so let's go back to our example here. We sold the men's Patagonia hat for $18.50 plus $5 shipping. Transferred over how much I paid on the hat, $2 from the inventory tab. Now I need to ship the item. So when I go and ship the item, I'm going to put the cost of the label in here. Let's say it was $485. I'm going to put it there. The only other thing we need to account for are my selling fees. So my platform fee is going to be the amount that I paid to sell this item. And remember, I said this was on eBay. So when I go to my eBay page and I look at my fees, you'll find them here. So let's just click on this one. When I scroll down, it will show you how much you've collected. Remember, we're not doing anything with the sales tax, so don't worry about that. And then if you scroll down even further, it will show you how much you paid out. So we had transaction fees of $586, a shipping label of $593, and then promoted fees of $246. So let's just use these numbers, even though it's not accurate, to fill in the transaction. So let's say my selling fees were $586. I'm going to put those right there. Let's disregard the shipping label because I've already put this. I've already put $485 in. But then this sold promoted on eBay. I promoted my listing, it sold, and I was charged $2.46. So we'll put a promoted fee of $2.46. And as I put in all these numbers, you notice that this started to adjust. And now I've got a profit of $8.33 right here, just on this one transaction. Okay, the only other column that I haven't mentioned is the transaction fee. And there are different ways that different sites do things. Most sites have a selling fee or a platform fee. Some sites have a promoted fee, and some have a transaction fee, meaning every transaction, there's a set amount that you're going to pay. You can use this column for that. It doesn't really matter where you put this stuff, as long as you have the accurate numbers in these columns, meaning as long as these numbers reflect how much you spent on that particular item in fees, you are good. Okay, so we recorded this sale. Now we need to go back to the inventory tab, because remember, these are all my active items. This is no longer active because I sold it. And so now I need to remove it. And so I'm going to highlight the row I need to remove by clicking on that specific row. I'm going to right click and hit delete, and that will take away the line. And you'll notice that my numbers up here adjusted once I remove that item. This said 14, now it's 13, and these are all different as well. Okay, so that's how you record a sale. Now, the fun part of this sheet, and the reason why you probably purchased, as you record sales in here, day, month, and year will start to populate data. So the day tab is going to show the sales that you've made on a given day. And you can see I've got a few in here based on sales that I've logged into the sheet, but we recorded that July 1st sale of the Patagonia hat. It was $18.50 plus 5 shipping, gives me total money collected on July 1st of $23.50. And then of course at the bottom, you've got your monthly totals for each month that you've made sales. If we go to the month tab, it's going to tell you your metrics based on the month. You'll notice a bunch of metrics here, and it may look intimidating. I'll explain as best I can what each of these mean. But let me just first, before I even start to explain, say this is your sheet, and some of these metrics are going to be really important to you. Some may not be that important at all. And maybe you're not sure which ones are going to be important and which ones aren't. I think as you go, you'll figure that out. Depending on where you are in your business and what types of things you're wanting to grow in, what goals you have. But let these things speak to you that you want to speak to you. If we're looking really quickly, you've got each month here, and you've got your month statistics in each row. So just like on the day tab, we had our daily sales. On the month tab, we've got our monthly sales. So this first chunk of 5 columns are going to relate to sales. These next 5 are going to relate to profit. And then you've got a bunch of stuff after that. So let's start here. Total sales, that one's pretty self-explanatory. It's going to tell you the total sales you've made in January or in each of these months. You've got sales per day. If we look at our sales tab, we only recorded 2 sales, and we can also see that on month. Units sold, 2. So this number is going to take your total sales and divide by the days in the month. So if we take 118.85, divide by 31 days in January, it's going to tell us that we're averaging just under $4 in sales per day for that month. You can look down to see what those trends tend to be for the rest of the months. So that's sales per day. You've got your units sold. So how many units did you sell in that month? Of course, all this at the very bottom sums up your yearly totals as well. You've got units sold per day. So it's going to take the units that you sold that month and divide by 31. So if it takes 2 and divides by 31, it's going to tell you you're averaging 0.1 units sold per day. Now, once you start to sell more than 1 or 2 items, these numbers will obviously go up. But since I have so few recorded transactions in this sheet, the numbers are really small. And then average sales price. What is your average price based on the items that you're selling? So it's going to take your total sales, divide by the units that you've sold, and give you an average sales price or an ASP of $59.43. So you can start to measure how you're doing based on these sales metrics here from month to month. And of course, you've got a few charts down here that will help visualize what is going on up here. Okay, let's look at the next few columns here. You've got total profit. So if we go back to our sales tab, it's going to take all of the profit that you've made in that particular month and put it into your month column. Now you've got profit per day, just like you had sales per day over here. How much profit are you averaging per day? If you averaged $3.83 in sales a day in January, you're averaging $1.78 in profit per day in January. Profit per unit is like it sounds. You're averaging $27.58 profit per unit. So for every item you sell, you make $27.58 on top of everything else. So margin is just a fancy word to say what's the percent of profit to your sales price. So it's going to take 55.16 and divide by 118.85 to give you a percent. And you can roughly just say that in January, 46% of your sales price was profit. Okay, return on investment, another fancy word, ROI, you may also hear this called, is basically taking the amount that you paid and the profit that was associated with that. So let's take the example of the Patagonia hat. I paid $2 for this hat to get it at the thrift store, and I made a profit of $8.33. So for the month of July, the recorded transaction was in July. It's going to take $8.33 profit and divide by the $2 that I spent to give me 417%. So what does that really mean for you? So ROI simply means this. For every dollar that you spent in July, you made $4.17 profit on top of that. And this tool is really great to know. You can roughly estimate based on some metrics that you have and your averages. If I spent $100, I'm going to make $417 profit, which is great. My $100 returned $417 profit. Okay, so let's move on. You've got total refunds. Now we haven't recorded any refunds yet in the sheet. So let me go back to the sales tab and show you how to do that. Remember, I do have a video on the FAQ tab. You can always revert back to that if you need to. But when you have a return or you're refunding someone's money, you're gonna do it on the sales tab right here. And it's actually a lot quicker than recording the sale. You're gonna simply come in on the next available line and put in 4 pieces of information. So you're always gonna enter the year. That will always be there. You're gonna enter the month that you're actually recording the refund in. Let's just say for this example that an item that sold in June got returned and now it's July. So let's take this men's North Face trucker hat. This item sold in June. It's now July. The buyer opened up a return, sent it back, and now I'm going to refund the buyer's payment and relist this item. So because it's no longer June, I'm not going to record this in June. I'm going to record it in the month that it happens. So we've got the year, the month. We're going to do the title. So I'm just going to come in here and I always just put refund. So you can do whatever you want. Just put in a title that will help you remember what it is you're refunding. You can also copy and paste this if you want and put in refund or something like that. So 4 pieces of information, year, month, title, and then you scroll all the way over to this column, refund, and you're going to put as a negative number the amount that you refunded to the buyer. So this item sold for $19 plus shipping. When I go to refund the item, I'm not going to refund the original shipping. I'm only going to refund the $19. But keep in mind, on some platforms like eBay, when you refund the buyer, eBay gives you a portion of your fees back to you. So I'm refunding 19, but they give you a credit for some of your fees since you had to return it. So whatever the bottom line number is when you do a refund, that's the number you're going to put here as a negative number. So let's just say that I refunded it on eBay and it tells me that $17.85 was taken from my account. I'm going to put that as a negative number right here. Okay, so now we've recorded the refund, but remember now we're going to likely relist that item, so we need to put it back into inventory. You can do this a couple of different ways. What I'll do is I'll usually just copy the original item. So if it's this trucker hat, I'll come in here and copy that title. I'll go into my inventory tab and then I'll just put today's date. So let's pretend it's now July 1st, 2025. I'm gonna paste in the title. I'm gonna fill in the rest of the details, what have you. You can also copy more of this information if you'd like. So if you want to come in here and say copy this line, you can put that in here as well. You just will have to remember to delete those numbers out right there. And then I would just change this date to the day that you're actually relisting that item back again. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So once we've recorded that refund, if we go back to the month tab, you'll see that this column now shows in July, we've given a refund of $17.85, and you'll have your total refunds here at the bottom. Sales tax collected, this is going to pull from the sales tab right here. Remember, most of you aren't going to have this, so for most of your sheets, this is going to be zeros. But if you do put any sales tax collected in, it's going to populate right here. So next, you've got your total and your average shipping cost. And these are just metrics to help you see how much you're spending on shipping labels. When it comes to tax time, it's important for your tax accountant to know how much did you spend in total for the year, your shipping labels, as well as other things like cost of goods and fees and things like that. So if we go back to the sales tab, any shipping costs you enter in this column are going to automatically populate over here in this column. So it's going to sum up all of your shipping costs based on the month that you put it in. And then of course, your average is going to be the total that you spent divided by the units that you sold. So you're averaging, in these first 2 examples, these are really high averages for shipping, but let's say you shipped something really big. $17.04 per item is your average shipping cost here. Okay, moving along, you get cost of goods. If you look at your sales tab, it's going to take from this column right here, cost of goods, and put it into the appropriate month, and basically give you an idea of how much cost you have associated with those sales. Remember, this is only for those items that have sold. It's not going to pull in any of these costs over here. And then you've got an average cost. So just in case you want to know, like, what's my average that I'm spending on items when I go to thrift stores or yard sales, you'll have that data here. Okay, so now we've got these last 5 columns here, and let me just quickly explain. So starting with average days to sell, when you enter your listed date and sold date and it populates this days to sell, you'll get an average over here for the month. So in the month of July, we're averaging 82 days to sell an item. On the year though, we're only averaging 38 days to sell an item. So out of all the items that have sold, they're averaging a little over a month turn time. So that's that metric there. Units listed. Once you list items on the inventory tab, this will automatically sum up over here, just to give you an idea of how many items you're listing each month. Sometimes resellers have goals like this month, I want to list 50 items, or I want to list 350, whatever that is. You can use this column to help you see how you're doing, whether you're on track to hit the goals that you have. Okay, sell-through rate is basically a statistic that maybe you've heard from other resellers, and it essentially means this. Each month you start off with a set amount of inventory. And if you look at this next column, you'll notice this, it says inventory at the start of the month. So for January, we started off with 10 units. On January 1st, in all of my online platforms, we had 10 total units listed for sale. And out of those 10 units, January, we sold 2. So we had 10 at the start of the month, we sold 2. So our sell-through rate is going to be the percentage of your beginning inventory level that you sold. So we sold 2 of 10, that means our sell-through rate is 20%. It means 20% of our inventory sold that month. So that's roughly how you'll read the sell-through rate. And there are different philosophies on what is a better sell-through rate, depending on what you're selling, what category you're selling in, depending on your strategy, whether you're pricing low or high. So you can do more reading on sell-through rate to determine, is my sell-through rate good for me? But this is, again, just going to measure your growth and help you get an idea of how you're doing month to month. So in order to get this sell-through rate to populate, and yours will show blank because you have a blank template, you just need to put in the inventory at the start of each month here. So this is the only manual entry on this whole tab, the month tab. So what I do is I have a notification on my phone that pops up, a little calendar reminder on the first of each month to put this number in here. So on the first of each month, I go to my online platforms and I put however much my total inventory is. If you're keeping your spreadsheet up to date, you can also find that number here and you can put this in there. So however you want to do it, that's totally up to you. So as long as you fill out this column right here, your sell-through rate will also fill out. Okay, and then the last column, inventory growth or decline, is basically taking the units that you listed for the month and subtracting out the units that you sold. So in the month of January, you listed 4 units, but in January you sold 2. So your inventory actually grew by 2 units. And this will just give you an idea of whether your inventory is increasing or decreasing. And of course, this may fluctuate month to month. One month you may go crazy and list 200 items and it may grow a lot. And then the next month you don't list as much and you sell a bunch and then it goes down. So that's how you're going to read this growth or decline column. And then this last number here will tell you on the year, what is your inventory growth or decline from last year until current this year. All right, lastly, the year tab. And this is basically going to take a lot of these numbers here on the totals column and populate them over here for you to get quick reference on the year. I won't go over all of these, but these are there for you to use what numbers you want to help you measure your business. So you've got a bunch of averages on the left side and a bunch of totals on the right. And this can be beneficial too when it comes tax time. You want your total sales, your refunds, things like that. You've got that all right here. Okay, so that's pretty much the basic tutorial. If you have any other questions, remember, check the FAQ tab. And then if you can't find your answers there, you can always reach out to me. So thanks for watching this video and good luck reselling out there. Hope you have a great year.